Hello, Professor Abadi. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Hello, hello. How are you? Thank you very much. I heard
Thank
you
you.
already have a disaster in Florida.
Well,
What
hopefully
weather?
it's going to be over soon. Today is the last day. Yeah.
Hopefully, hopefully, hopefully. Thank you.
So I'm going to share screen, right? Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
I
please.
think Dr. Hisham is going to introduce you first.
Yes, I should be able to share. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank
No.
you very much.
Yeah. No. No video. Okay. So should I start?
Just a few moments to start with.
Okay.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, sallallahu alaihi wa Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Hisham Hassan Ali Dinar, and welcome once again to the following session. We are honored here to have with us Dr. Yabing Gao, the Vice President and Member Service of Global Partnership Quality Matters USA. Dr. Gao served in different roles in higher education, including faculty, instructional design, learning management system administrator, district director, and dean, among others. Dr. Gao also is a well respected education administrator and champion for lifelong learning and education for all. As a vice president member, service and global partners at Quality Matters USA, Dr. Gao leads international collaborations and global outreach initiatives and oversees member services for more than 1,500 members, member institutions and organizations globally, spanning for more than 40 countries across six continents in support of their strategic goals to ensure academic quality in online education and digital learning. Dr. Gao earned her doctorate degree in curriculum and instruction with concentration in education technology and instructional design from Baylor University, Texas, USA, and her master and bachelor degree from Shanghai International Studies University, Shanghai, China. Dr. Gao, it's an honor to have you with us today in Sudan Health Profession Education Conference, SHEDCON 2023, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I'm still in the morning in Miami here, Florida. So I wanted to send some sunshine over to you. The sun is came out just after a few days of bad weather. So I'm just so honored to have this opportunity to engage with you. And I want to thank Dr. El Mahdi for his invitation. I also want to thank Dr. Hishma for all of his coordination, etc. So thank you for the wonderful introduction. So my title is Designing and Delivery Quality and Engage Online Courses. And since we only have 20 minutes or so short presentation, I probably will not be able to go into the detail on how to, but I'm thinking, I want to share how this online education field or in higher education has changed. As in the last session, Dr. Omar was sharing, the COVID pandemic has changed everything, and it has. And I am a positive person, and we have learned so much. And so, thank you for this opportunity. What I'd like to do is for us to all be here and just take a quick look actually higher education, not necessarily online education. And even though my title is online education, I wanted to assure you that all the resources, best practices that I'm sharing right now is really not just for online education in the old terminology. Right now, we live in a digital learning, teaching and learning environment. So anytime I say online education, it's really very general, just teaching and learning in the digital environment post-pandemic. That's where we are in. Okay, so and I'm hoping that that will give you some background because you are in your specific field, saving life every day. But you step back and think about the education, the higher education background, the landscape has changed. And then from there, I'm trying to zoom in and share some best practice and also a few resources that's publicly available for you as faculty and staff. So I'll touch upon the major trends and how do we ensure academic quality in this environment because it's changing every day, right? And you as faculty, how important your role is. Okay, AI is here, but the AI is not going to take your role. Okay, your role as a faculty, as a professional is more and more important. And then, what are the best practices that we have learned? How do you engage students? Because technology does not make things happen. Technology does not help teach learn, but it is a pedagogy. It's how you engage your students. That's the most important thing. And then I will share a few resources at the end. So according to the ENGICORE's Horizon report, and ENGICORE is one of the major US-based organizations. They are focused on higher education technology. So I'm combining the screen that you're seeing, I'm combining the pandemic year as well as the post-pandemic year. So from 2021, 2022, and 2023, what are the trends? What's happening in the higher education field? So we all know AI, ChatGPT is here, hybrid, everything is hybrid, right? And the students wants to once again feel a sense of belonging. They wanted to be part of this learning community, part of your university, part of your college. So even if they are taking some courses in a hybrid online format, they still yearn for that kind of community feel and the quality, of course. And in other area, micro-credentialing, learning analytics, open education resources, and faculty. You all are so busy, right? So, you don't have the time and the energy to research, but we know that you need just-in-time faculty support before, during, and after you teach. And hybrid, we know the entire society, the entire world has changed after the pandemic, but change for the better. So I want to echo Dr. Omar and Dr. El Marty. You know, we have learned so much. And if we just zoom into higher education, just teaching and learning, let's focus on that. Everything is hybrid. The way we teach is hybrid. The way we learn is hybrid. The way, even if you're just a staff member, you are an administrator, you do your work in a hybrid fashion. So on this particular screen, the learning activity, teaching and the learning in the digital environment are in the diagram showing you on the right side, these practice or these learning activities are more suitable or can be suitable for online. On the left, these are more face-to-face. And I know that I'm talking to healthcare professional, and a lot of what you do, your students do, cannot be just online. It has to be in person. It has to be the hospital, clinical, hands-on, etc. But I'm also confident that as we learn more, as the technology improves, the part in the middle, that is the hybrid fashion. That part is going to expand, and continue to expand moving forward. So all the technology, all the practice are changing every day. How do we keep up? And how do we ensure academic quality? Just because we are using the latest, the fanciest, the shiniest technology does not mean that we have quality. So QM, that's where I am right now. We are a community of 20 years. We focus on online education, digital teaching and learning. So QM is an organization focused on research-based standards and practice. We have standards for higher education, K-12, K-20. And then we provide lots of professional training for faculty, instructional designers. And to ensure quality, we also do course and program review and certification. So QM's mission is focused squarely on teaching and learning. And as you can see on the map, that's a slide that I'm always showing off. I'm always most proud of is QM has member institutions in so many countries. But if you look at it, Sudan is not there. So I'd love to have institutions in Sudan to become also part of the QM community. And here's just some photo. You can see some pre-pandemic international engagement conferences, and some are during the pandemic. And this one in the middle is a meeting between QM staff and higher education professionals and accreditation professionals in Ukraine. So, for example, for higher education courses, QM offers this higher education rubric. And if you look at the general standards, it all makes sense. So even though QM started, we helped online learning in community, but over these 2 decades, everything that QM offers and produce and, it's really helped teaching and learning. It doesn't matter if you're teaching online, hybrid, or even face-to-face. We are using technology to enhance our teaching and learning anyway. So if you look at this 8 general standards, everything makes sense. It doesn't matter what format you're teaching. And under the 8 general standards, there's 40 some specific standards. So when you use those standards to improve the course, when you're ready, you can have QM review and certify your course. And QM's standards are considered as golden international standards for online education and digital teaching and learning. And also, when you look at the program, it's more than just courses, right? Courses are the academic core of any program. What about faculty support? What about the support and resource you provide to students? And last but not least, all of those input you put into your program, what's the outcome? Are your students learning, achieve the same learning outcomes as they are for the online and on-ground traditional program? So the QM certification program is more than just the courses. So let's ask ourselves, how do we ensure academic quality? Now here, we're not talking about accreditation yet, okay? We're talking about teaching and learning. So think about it. You can have a quick concept is at course level, at the very bottom, at the program level, in the middle, and all of this, what you're doing every day, day in and day out, is helping your institution to achieve the institutional goals at the very top. So just as a quick overview, at the course level, the most important thing that you wanted to pay attention, again, this is not limited to online education. Online, hybrid, face-to-face, it's all the same. The first thing is very important, and I don't think that in the past we spent a lot of time that, you got your PhD from a university, you're hired by another university, and you have the textbook and you go teach, right? So a lot of our professors, they do not have the education background as instructors. They are the content expert. So the most important thing at the course level is, of course, the alignment between your learning outcomes and assessment. You said the students are going to learn, to do this after the course. I mean, how are you going to assess them? So that's the most important piece, concept at the course level. And of course, whether you are teaching online, hybrid, online, it doesn't matter. Whatever that you're using in your course there's only one goal. The goal is to help students achieve the stated learning outcomes or objectives. And all the instruction material, all the learning activity, the practice, all the tools, technology-wise or other things, tools that you're using, all of this is to support a student's achievement of the learning outcomes. Also, however you're teaching your course, your class is a learning community, okay? You are not only the professor, you are also the learning facilitator. You engage students. You provide support for students. Very quickly at the program level, of course, again, learning objectives, okay? Because each institution say, our undergraduate or our graduate students, when they complete their programs, they are going to be able to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then at the program level, you also have program competencies or program outcomes, right? And each program have 10, 20, 30 courses. And how does those outcomes, learning objectives, they are all aligned down to the lesson level, module level. So that's the first thing to ensure quality is think about the alignment of all the learning outcomes, objectives, or competencies. And then, of course, when you are on the program level, you want to look at all the resources that you're providing to your faculty, to your students. And last but not least, and certainly the most important thing is, how is your graduation rate? Are students satisfied? Are your employers satisfied with your graduates? And then here on this screen, you are able to see how the course level, program level, all of this are supporting your institution's goal. First, of course, accreditation. And then, the graduation rate, the completion rate, and retention, etc., etc. So over the past 20 years, QM has been used by so many institutions, and the positive impact are both on the institution as well as on the students. So I mentioned, there has been a few, and the conversation still happens, oh, now we have AI, we have a ChatGPT and all the other tools. I mean, are we going to lose jobs as faculty? Nope, definitely not. Your role is changing, your role has changed, but it's all the more important to have competent and engaging faculty in and outside the classroom in the digital teaching learning environment. You're still the content expert, but you are the one who's engaging students day in and day out. And you are the one who's helping your program, not just courses, your program achieve their learning outcomes, and you're contributing to your institution. And for me, I feel this is perhaps one of the most important role for faculty is you are an example as you are a model for your students for lifelong learning. Okay, so from here, I wanted to focus a little bit about how do we really design and deliver a quality and engaging courses. Again, as I said earlier, this is not a hands-on workshop, but I'm hoping to give you some inspiration and start to think about, at least conceptually, how to improve teaching and learning. So we all know by now, student engagement is so important. That is, either online, hybrid, or in person, it doesn't matter. And how do we engage? Your courses, your lessons, your classes needs to be intentionally designed in such a way that you are creating those opportunities. You're providing those opportunities for students to interact in order to engage. So interact needs to happen between students and the content, and that's probably a given, right? That's how we teach content, right? But how about interaction between peers, in students to students, right? Because it is a learning community, and students want that. Students want to learn from you. Students also want to learn from each other. And since we have so much free resources, YouTubes and everything else online, you as a faculty, you should also encouraging students to learn from each other, share what they learned with the others. And you as a faculty, you learn along the way too. And also to interact with you, so that even if you are teaching part of your course online or it's a hybrid fashion, even though you are not meeting your students today, you still have a way to interact and engage with your students. And how do you do that? While you are interacting in this, you probably are not aware, but you are actually engaging your students by established presence. So lots of research has been done that in the digital environment, students want to have social presence. Social presence just means that you are in the learning community, your class, your course, whether you only have 20 students, you have 40, or you have more. This is a learning space. Everybody should feel safe. We are here in the same space for the same reason. We are going to learn. We're going to achieve the learning outcomes. So you want to find ways to make students feel that they're comfortable and they're learning together and they pay respect to each other. So that's all there is. That's the social presence. Cognitive presence, that's what we talk about. They interact with content. They go outside. They do research. They bring back. You can create a teamwork and project So they learn, so they interact with content by learning, by doing things. They master the skills that you want them to master. And then again, teaching presence. And if any faculty, you are teaching online, you probably are teaching a a course. Your perhaps in your institution, you have an instruction design team. They build a course for you with everything already incorporated. So you just every time you teach, you make a copy of that online or hybrid course and you teach it. But you, again, you are the professor. Just because the course is well designed, just because the course has all the videos, all the multimedia and technology, does not make learning happen automatically. You, as a professor, you have your teaching presence. Just being able to engage with your students, that is your teaching presence. You make the class yours. So if you, I probably don't have time to go into detail, but I have some examples, resource, how do you establish social presence? How do you further establish cognitive presence? And how do you establish teaching presence? So if any of you is interested, wants to know more, send me an email and I'll share all the information. So this slide, if you look at the interaction versus the presence, they match exactly. You create opportunity for your students to interact with each other among themselves, that you are actually building the social presence. You wanted to create assignments, learning activities, do project, so that the students are interacting with the content. You are facilitating cognitive presence. You are inspiring. You are making the learning meaningful to your students. And by interact with your students, you are establishing your teaching presence. You are the professor. You are the lifelong learning facilitator for your students. And as I mentioned earlier, I have tons of free resources. I'm only quoting here two. One is the QM emergency remote instruction checklist. So we're post pandemic, but this checklist is still a very fundamental quick checklist. If you are teaching in the teaching in hybrid or online environment, you want to take a look to see, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Or should I be adding this? So again, it's a quick checklist. If you have already experienced online teaching because of past few years, we kick and scream, but we survived, we learned a lot. And now you are officially teaching hybrid or online courses, but you feel like you might wanted to make some improvement. So we have a basic online course design guide. You can use it for online, you can use it for hybrid, you can even use it for your face-to-face teaching. Again, if you are interested, just email me. And we also have other resources if you're an instructional designer and if you wanted to attend some complimentary webinars and success stories, etc. And here is my email, ygao@qualitymatters, there's a s.org. So email me and I'm happy to connect and share all the resources. So I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yabin Gao, and allow me to share some of the questions from the audience.
Sure.
I have a question here from Dr. Bakri. His question is, and I'm quoting, how social process can be used to reinforce the resource.
How social presence can
How social process can be used to reinforce resources. Probably the question is not complete here. I'll get back to him in a moment to finalize the question. I'll move
Okay.
to the second question from Dr. Abir. She's asking about the quality management rubrics needed for quality management certification integration with courses.
Yes, that can be conducted for both online courses as well as hybrid courses. And the standards are actually publicly available on the qualitymatter.org homepage. But if you wanted to have your course officially certified, I would encourage you to use the standards to do some internal check-in, internal review, and take some basic QM professional development. So, and contact me. I will, share um, a few guidelines and how to do this process in a more effective and a way that actually meets your own goals. Yeah. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gao, and yes, please, if you have any materials for the audience, we'll be happy to upload it in the virtual
Absolutely.
platform. All
Thank
right, to
you.
catch up our timeline again, we thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome also Professor Abdul Munaim Sahal Al Mardi. Professor Sahal, in addition to that, he's my role model actually, and one of the reasons that I joined the medical school to study medicine. Professor Sahar, of course, is a professor of anatomy and medical education in Dubai Medical College for Girls, UAE, the ex-director of Center of Education, University of Al Marifa. He's a visiting professor of anatomy and medical education, educational development center, faculty of medicine, University of Khartoum. Is the ex-head of learning and education technology unit, faculty of medicine, Al Imam Muhammad bin Saud Islamic University. Also an ex-member of the curriculum development committee, the faculty of medicine, Al Imam Muhammad bin Saud University, Saudi Arabia. Also is an ex-member of the Faculty Development University Committee, Faculty of Medicine, in the Imam Muhammad, and also University of and other actually committees that work and spend a lot of efforts in the field of medical education. Professor Sahar will take us through an important journey. And FYI, Professor Sahar was one of the first who talk about the concept of the new norm after COVID-19, and now he will give us an interesting session about the acceptance and adoption of technology post COVID-19. Professor Sahar, welcome once again, and the floor is yours. You're muted, Professor Sahar. You're mute.
Yes, thank you very much. I was trying to start my PowerPoint presentation. Thank you very much. I will just do it and come back to the platform. There we go. What is the fastest way to go back to the platform after you start the PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah. So, are you using Microsoft?
Yes, I started it. Now it's in presentation mode. So it is
And then
blocking
you,
the screen. I would like to go back to the platform.
in the keyboard, you click in the windows, the four squares windows,
Yes,
that
the
the
wind
start,
is there. Okay.
and then
Then
you click on
PowerPoint.
the Chrome. Do you have the virtual platform in front of you now?
No.
So basically, when you click on the start icon in the keyboard, then the Chrome
Yes.
browser will appear down there. Click on it.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. I got it.
There you go.
And it took me back. Thank you very much. Now I will share.
Yes.
The sharing is not as it used to be. Window, PowerPoint slideshow.
Yes.
Can you see it now?
Absolutely yes.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for being patient. I also would like to thank, before I start, Dr. Gao for a very wonderful presentation. I attended a number of sessions with her, and each time I learned something new. Thank you very much, Dr. Gao. And also, as Omar Osman made my life easy, she also made my life easier. I'm going to go through my talk very quickly because they already paved the way for me by talking about what happened during COVID and the technology. So my talk is entitled Post-COVID-19 Technology Acceptance and Adoption in Medical Education. And in my talk, I'm going to first introduce what is technology acceptance models, what are they, and then what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic and after that with regards to the educational technology, including what Dr. Gao spoke about, and the effects of COVID-19 on the learning environment. And finally, there is an important social dimension which was mentioned by Dr. Omar Usman in his talk, but I'm going to talk about it and its effect on education. Now, what are technology acceptance models? What are these? There are many technology acceptance models, in fact, and what some of them are called technology acceptance models, and some of them are called technology adoption models. How people accept and how people adopt technology, and in what space. And as you all know, technology has been developing with a very fast pace in all walks of life for a number of decades. It's not something new. It started a long time ago. And when they happened and when they happen now, these technological changes create threats to established business models and to people. They are threatening to people. People start thinking that technology is taking over, they are taking their jobs and all of that. So this is a known fact proven by research and publication. Now, and its acceptance and adoption in the various sectors, including higher education, is variable. And when I say variable, it means some areas, some countries, some groups of people adopt it fast, some people adopt it with a slow pace, some people resist its adoption. So the acceptance and adoption of the various in the various sectors, including higher education, is variable. So you will find universities that are adopting technology and others which are not adopting technology. You find teachers adopting, teachers not adopting, students adopting, and students not adopting. So there is diversity and variability in this adoption aspect. Now, any change in an innovation in the work environment, this change diffuses from one group of adopters to the other. So if a group of people adopted whatever change, including change in technology or any innovation, if a group adopts it, then it diffuses from this group to the next group and so on. And this was elegantly described by Dr. Everest Rogers in his diffusion of innovation theory or model. And in that model, he mentioned this and he actually classified the groups of innovators elegantly. And this is the graph he created in his first publication. And he found that 2.5% are innovators. Whatever innovation you introduce into an environment, they adopt it immediately. And then the next group, the next to them are the early adopters. They become convinced. And this innovation diffuses from the innovators to these early adopters. And from the early adopters, the innovation or the change will diffuse to the next group, which is the early majority. The majority of the middle group, the 68%, half of them are early adopters. The other half are the late majority. And then there are the laggards, those who resist anything. So this what was published by Rogers, and he classified the people in any environment into these groups. So with regards to technology, there are many publications. Of course, one of them is the theory of diffusion of innovation. This one, acceptance and adoption model. It's a general model about diffusion of innovations, and this was published by Everest Rogers in 1995. Now, there is something called the theory of reasonable actions, the TRA, and this was published even before the diffusion of innovation model in 1975 by Fishbein and Agzin. Another one is called the theory of planned behavior, the TPP. And this was also published in 1985 and republished in 1999. There is the decomposed theory of planned behavior, and there is the technology acceptance model, which I'm going to discuss now. This appeared also in a number of publications by Davis, Boghosi, and Wershaw. The first publication was in 1989, and then they published another one with another author in 2000, and so on. So they continued. So this is why I am interested in this technology acceptance model, in which there are three versions. The latest of them was in 2008. So I am going to discuss very quickly these two models, the theory of diffusion of innovation and the technology acceptance and adoption, technology acceptance model, or the TAM by Davis. So the first model, actually, it was tested after he published this in 1995. Many studies were done and they proved him right. Any new change will diffuse from one group to the others, starting from the innovators and ending with the laggards who do not adopt the change at all. But you need to realize, you need to classify people in your institution according to these groups. And there is an approach to deal with each of these groups. So he said that the process by which an innovation is communicated through certain channels over time among the members of a social system. And this was his model, and I've shown you the graph, and I will show it again later on. So he said innovation and adoption happened after going through several stages, including the first people understand, then they become persuaded, then they make the decision, implement, and then it becomes confirmed. So even within one group, it goes through these several stages. Now, there is a theory that speaks about readiness, because it depends on the readiness of people. And this was published in 2001. They call it technology readiness. So the consumers were also classified into 5 readiness segments, and they are the same, which are mentioned by Everest Rogers in his book. They call them the explorers, and Everest Rogers called them the innovators. Then the pioneers, these are the early adopters. Then the skeptics, which are the early majority. The paranoids, which are the late majority. And the laggards, they gave them the same name. So they are, as far as technology is concerned, they are not ready at all. They are the laggards. You will not accept. So this is the diffusion of innovation models. And as you can see, many people gave the groups different names. In this diagram, they produced slightly different percentages, but they are the same 5 groups. The first one, they call it the techies. The techies, these are the innovators. And the early adopters, they call them the visionaries, and then the pragmatists, the conservatives, and then the skeptics. So they are the same 5 groups. So, and now this is an image that summarizes the history of this concept. For example, airlines, when they appeared, the number of years it took each product to gain 50 million users. So to gain 50 million users of airplanes, it took 68 years. Now cars, to get the same 50 million users, it took 62 years. Phones, telephones, the traditional telephones, it took 50 years to get the 50 million target. For TVs, it took 22 years. Now let us go through then the computers, the internet. Look at Facebook, it took 3 years to get the 50 million target. And there is a Pornhub, it was popular in 19 days. So it varies and depends on the readiness of people for the technology and the issue addressed by the technology. Now, this is the first one, which is the diffusion of innovation model. The second model, which is a very important one, studied tremendously since the 1990s, it's called the technology acceptance model. What helps in technology acceptance to be accepted? And what are the hurdles for that? This technology acceptance model explains the general determinants of technology acceptance. And it explains the user's behavior across a broad range of end users. The basic technology acceptance model tested 2 specific beliefs. They believe that, one, they called it perceived usefulness. They studied how people perceive the usefulness of whatever technology is introduced, which is the potential user's subjective likelihood that the use of a certain system will improve his or her actions, usefulness to them. So the perception of usefulness. If we apply this to educators, it means if we introduce e-learning or distant learning or technology, educational technology, and if you ask the group of educators about their perception of usefulness, this is called perceived usefulness, the potential user's subjective likelihood. The second one is the perceived ease of use, and this refers to the degree to which the potential user expects the target system to be effortless. And as you know, it's human nature. Anything new, people will start saying, can I use it without great effort? Am I going to waste a lot of time learning this? Am I going to spend a lot of time using it? So the perception of ease of use. So these are the 2 basic technology acceptance model features, talking about 2 specific beliefs: the perceived usefulness and the perceived ease of use. And this is what I'm going to talk about when we address the issue of what happened during COVID to these 2. And there are something more I'm going to discuss in the next slide. Now, so the belief of the person towards a system may also be influenced by other factors. And they call them in the technology acceptance model as external variables. It's not only the perceptions, the factors surrounding the person. It's not only his beliefs, but what is around that person. So individual differences, system characteristics, social influence, facilitating conditions are all determinants of this perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use. So a person, if left alone, might perceive it to be useful, but he will be influenced by the people surrounding him talking about it negatively. So it is not only the perceptions, but also the surrounding system characteristics, the individual differences, the social influence, and so on. So these are the external variables which are going to affect the perceived usefulness and the perceived ease of use, and this will affect, of course, the attitude towards using and the behavioral intention to use it and so on, and the actual use of it. So this is the first part, which is what is technology acceptance model. So what happened during COVID, generally speaking, about technology, not its acceptance and perception of ease of use, but what happened? Actually, they touched upon what happened, and Dr. Gao spoke about the changes, and even when Omar Osman was giving his presentation, he spoke about they were using Meet at the time, and Zoom was not quite known, and all of that. So what happened during COVID? For a starter, the technology, the industry, the companies, turns the disaster into an opportunity. Actually, Zoom, the company that produces Zoom, made maybe I'll not be exaggerating if I say billions of dollars or maybe $1 trillion because of the COVID-19. Because Zoom was known to a few people and it was used by companies for meetings. It was called Zoom meetings, actually. And many of the video conferencing applications were actually made to be used by business. Their use by educators and learners and all of that actually created an opportunity for them during that disaster. So the industry turned this disaster into an opportunity, and there was 3 changes which were very clear. Visibility. Many people didn't know anything about Zoom. During the pandemic, everybody knows what Zoom is. There was expansion. When I say expansion, there were only, let's say, 10, maybe 20 video conferencing applications, but suddenly there was an expansion of the numbers of these applications. And then not only the video conferencing one, but the learning management systems and other technologies used in education. And then there was improvement. When we started using Zoom for education at the early days of the pandemic, it has got only limited features, but with time, it improved a lot, and now it is introducing improvements all the time. And this happened in both the tools used for learning, but also the learning materials. Many new companies actually appeared and started producing learning materials. So it's not only the tools. And if you can see these learning materials or learning technologies, let us say, for example, Access Medicine, Cyber Patient, Lectorio, Labster, many learning resources and platforms are actually also they gain visibility, expansion, and improvement. And some of them actually appear. Also, the video conferencing or the virtual classroom applications, the learning management systems, the gamification, and the interaction application, all of them actually gained visibility, changes, improvement, and expansion. They expanded a lot. So as far as video conferencing is concerned, you now know there are many. Some of them I knew before the pandemic, but they improved a lot during and after the pandemic. I used to use GoToMeeting, and I used to use Skype or Skype, but they became more visible and they improved a lot. But look at this. This is just a sample list of the video conferencing applications that are now can be used in education. Also, the interaction and polling apps improved a lot and became more relevant to the use for education. Even the cloud computing, I was using Dropbox for quite some time. It was just a Dropbox. You just drop things there and share them with others. but it converted into cloud computing, and after that they introduced it as an educational technology. It's not only the Dropbox, Google Drive. Now they have Google Workspace, they have Google Education, and so on. So many of the some of the platforms opted for cloud computing, the cloud computing dimension, and they improved the use of these cloud computing technologies for education. And now you know all of this. For example, the Google Workspace, it is called Google Workspace for Education. They collected some of their tools and put them in one workspace that can be used for education. There is also workspace for business. Also, a lot of improvement took place for Office 365, and including features and capabilities in Teams and other applications that are very useful in the field of technology. So you can see all of this. Even I started using Facebook long time ago, but they introduced streaming during just before the pandemic, so that you can stream your lectures through Facebook, and now people are using that to stream whatever activities they have. Also, YouTube introduced a facility. They introduced two issues. One of them is YouTube education, and then they introduced this streaming service. You can stream live. By the way, we are now streaming this conference in YouTube. So they introduced these changes during. So a lot of changes took place during the COVID-19 pandemic, affecting the educational technology industry. So what happened with regards to the learning environment itself? Actually, my colleagues, both of them spoke about the changes, especially Omar Osman. He talked about the tremendous changes they introduced to their training program because of the COVID. And that helped them realize that there are many things that could be done even if there are restrictions. So what happened? The lockdown imposed by COVID forced, and I repeat, forced. We were forced faculty, including the late adopters and the laggers, to use technology. I saw them, I trained them, I saw the resistance in their behavior and everything. They received training, often dragged kicking and screaming into the sessions. They come to the session because they are forced to. Also, the students and families were also forced to use this. The families were actually nagging all the time because of the new efforts imposed on them. It was an opportunity, though, for them to appreciate its benefit and ease of use. Although many were forced, it was an opportunity for them to appreciate its benefit. So there were changes in the perception of benefit and perception of ease of use. Both of them, they were very clear. Actually, there were studies addressing the issue. So technology acceptance improved a lot during the pandemic. Also, new education paradigms became more visible. We didn't know about them. We didn't know about this high flex thing. So now they became visible, they become trendier and more acceptable, this new education paradigm. For example, the blended learning was used by some institutions, was used by some educators, but it became more visible and they became trendier and more acceptable. The flipped classroom methodology, Professor Kai spoke about it, and she also mentioned, although she always says, the flipped classroom is not about technology, but it can use technology. But what happened during COVID-19, people actually started using technology more for the flipped classroom methodology. And they started using the flipped classroom methodology more because of the technology. Now, there is a concept which started in the technology industry, which is called alternative credentials. Like Google, like Microsoft, all of them started offering courses and giving certificates for them. And they started calling them alternative credentials. But this alternative credential concept changed a lot during the COVID because people are now accepting training and teaching and certification beyond the brick and mortar environment, beyond the physical university environment. And we have a saying here, one of our colleagues, he always says, banking is important, banks are not. Schooling is important, schools are not. Marketing is important, markets are not. And he said university education is important, university is not. We can provide university education, not necessarily in universities. So the concept of alternative credentials found its way more during the COVID-19. The flexible pathways and the high flex education, all of these education paradigms gained more popularity, more visibility. They become more trendier and more acceptable. So institutions applied these new learning approaches. They started testing them, experimenting with them, and they started realizing their benefit. They also utilize the now more visible and improved utilities. Now, what about the social dimension? This is a very important, actually, aspect. The stakeholders, when I say stakeholders, the educators, the learners, the families, the community, everybody, realized many aspects pertaining to technology when they were forced to use it. And many appreciated the two aspects of TAM, which are the benefit and the ease of use, which are the foundations of acceptance and adoption. Some of the acceptance and adoption, however, was not voluntary and did not last. So they realized it for some time, but they have their heritage preconceptions that actually led them to go back to their normal behaviors. Also, some socioeconomic factors contributed to the weakening of this sustainability. But another very important factor is that the technology was not advocated by effective parties. What I mean, if governments were not quite in favor, if leaders, if the authorities, if they are not in favor and they didn't publicly advocate for the effective use of technology, actually the minute the COVID-19 started to fade away, so many educators and many education institutions, they actually went back to what they were doing in the past. But deep inside, the realization remained. A very important publication is called, during the pandemic, the International Association of Universities conducted research and they published a report, a very important report called The Impact of COVID-19 on Higher Education Around the World. And in that, some countries and institutions were found to be more prepared than others. And now what they're saying, you need to be prepared for disaster. And I think Hisham spoke about, or he's going to speak about, what they call the teach in business, the teaching continuity plans. And most of the teaching continuity plans actually address the issue of being prepared for disaster preemptively. You prepare yourself if a disaster strikes, you are ready, and they address the issue of making benefit of technology. Actually, in the study, they found that most of the institutions adapted very well with the situation, although there were some challenges, and institutions addressed the challenges differently. The challenges were faced differently by different institutions, and they had all sorts of findings that reflected what happened. And they actually published a guide. I think Dr. Gao will have a copy of that because it is called Guide for Quality Online Teaching by the International Association of Universities. And it's called Improving Online Teaching Practical Guide for Quality Online Education by International Association of Universities. So they published that guide, and 1 year later, they published another report, and that other report called 1 Year into COVID-19 Pandemic. And in that report, They mentioned what I just summarized. The expansion, the improvement, and the use of continue actually continued 1 year after the pandemic. And the acceptance and adoption actually increased in that report. And the micro-credential, the hybrid, the high flex, and the online education gained more acceptance. This was actually the result of their study. And also the computer-based, and to some extent, online exams gained more acceptance and become the norm in some places and some institutions. But skepticism and reservations also continued. So it continued through the pandemic, and after the pandemic, there were some critics and some skeptics. They continued talking about their perception of things, not real scientific evidence. They said, oh, well, this lack of interaction affected the students, this and that. But these people continue to become to being skeptical and have their own reservation. And what happened? The social pressure and the social media called for the resumption of face-to-face and in-campus education. So these external variables actually affected the developments that happened during the COVID-19, but they continued, but they retreated a little bit because of this social pressure. So some of the negative external factors identified, the reluctance and resistance of faculty was a major one. The social burden on families, as far as distant and online education is concerned, was a pressing factor. The lack of enthusiasm of leaders and authorities was the third factor. And the social media and the negativity in general, not just in the social media. There were some other economic factors that contributed because not everybody is capable. There is the haves and there are the have-nots. Some people cannot actually buy computers and buy devices that they can use, and this is what. So now, since the change was a forced transition, to make it transformational and sustainable, whatever happened so far after COVID and still sustain, we need to make it transformational. We need to not just transitional. We need to sustain it, and it needs a multidimensional management strategy at national and international levels. So it needs to be consciously addressed to sustain it. We want to change it from an adaptive and transitional change into a transformational change, and that needs change management. So change management strategies and plans need to be implemented at various levels. Special attention should be paid to the social dimension to counteract this social dimension and the negativity and other people-related issues, including angst. Angst, which is worry. People are worried that technology is taking over in general, not just in education. So angst management approaches can be applied, including appreciative inquiry, nudging, emotional management are just examples of the approaches that can be applied. So we can use appreciative inquiry, nudging, emotions management, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor Sahel. Very interesting talk. And allow me to pass some of the questions from the audience before we move to the other session. Probably to trigger some of the question, I start by myself. We talked today very much about how we need to learn from previous experiences that we in the health profession education particularly go through it, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's armed conflicts or otherwise. So I know you stress upon some of these insight during your presentation and other colleagues in the previous session. However, I would like to give us just some insight, and probably you would like to categorize it. What is your recommendations for the policymakers, the must do now, considering the concept of acceptance of technology to move forward in the different aspects of health profession education, considering the situation running now in Sudan? If you can just give some insights and recommendation for different categories in the area for the policymakers in the context of health professional education from the angle of the acceptance of technology and the adoption of technology. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sam, for the question. It's a very, it's a cornerstone question. In fact, it's not going to be easy because all of it is about proactively preparing for it, proactively addressing it, consciously addressing it, give it the time and effort it deserves. It's an important issue. It is timely that we address it actively and proactively. And disasters, this succession of disasters, mandate that it is done yesterday. It wasn't done yesterday, let us do it today. So we need to address it actively and proactively. And we do not say we are busy dealing with other things. It's important. It needs a strategic approach with it's a strategic approach about dealing with it, especially as I mentioned at the end, this social dimension that creates resistance, that hinders the progress. It needs to be addressed consciously. We know that there are people-related issues, so we need to have a change management strategy applying all these concepts, the nudging approach, the dealing with emotions, expected difficulties, expected loss of jobs, and all of that. So it needs to be taken by authorities and activists. Authorities now cannot deal with these issues on their own, but you need group of people that make initiatives and actively address the issue as such, but address it also at the social level, because my talk spoke about people appreciated and everything, but they started going back because of the social pressures, not because they realized that the technology is not acceptable. They were convinced that the technology is beneficial, the technology is acceptable, but they went back not because of their realization, but because of the social pressures and the negativity.
Thank you very much. Probably a follow-up question on that. One of the things that when it comes to crisis situations, one of the first things that we hear in different levels, whether it's a decision-making level or even as a faculty or personal level in different aspects and disciplines, one of the first things that we hear that's not the right time. And people, when it comes to technology, always say that, I mean, it's a bit difficult to talk about adoption and acceptance of a technology as part of the solution during crisis, particularly when it comes to a very complicated area like the health profession education. So if you can just retrieve one or two success stories that you can recall and pass it to the audience, so that we can or we all can be encouraged by the models that we have there, adopting and accepting technologies in different situations, not necessarily COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much also for this question. I will quote only one experience. During the COVID, I mentioned activists. So a group of activists actually volunteered to provide training on the use of technology in education to university teachers in Sudan. And in fact, we conducted around 40 courses, 40 courses, not workshops, not days, 40 groups. It was very successful for the time of the COVID. It helped a lot. But what I talked about, people going back, we studied one particular helping factor. Actually, the publication was entitled Leadership Engagement in Improving the Chances of Success. So we quoted the number of institutions, we followed the institutions in which the leaders were involved in the training, not involved managerially. They actually attended the course with the faculty and everything. And it was very clear. I'm not going to mention any specific institutions, but there was sustainable change in these institutions because they used it during the COVID because they were forced to do it, but because of the leadership engagement, and they attended the training with them, and then they made legislations and decisions after that. So the issue was sustained for a longer duration. Some of them are still using technology for it. And when these other disasters struck, they were ready. And I talked about technology readiness.
Thank you very much, Professor Sahel. I mean, we'll have probably the whole day. We're very excited once you start speaking because you trigger a lot of questions in everyone's mind. But again, due to the schedule, probably we'll pause the Q&As, and I would like to extend again our greatest appreciation for having you presenting this very important topic and sharing your wisdom and insights in technology, in education technology, particularly after COVID-19. And once again, thank you very much for our participants. And I would like to invite you to join our last session, which about presenting accepted abstracts for ShedCon 2023. نختم بدعوتكم للانضمام إلى آخر حلقة في لقائنا خلال اليوم في السيشن القادمة where some of our colleagues will present a lot of interesting experiences in the research in the field of health profession education. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and see you in 2 minutes in the next session. Thank you, Professor.